You're watching Narrify.
I never believed one person could dismantle an entire life so quietly, so methodically, that by the time you recognized the pattern, you were already too broken to stop it. Before all of this, before the arrests, the lies, the manipulation, the years spent clawing at my own sanity, I thought I understood people. I thought I understood love. But California has a strange way of disguising its monsters. Mine came wrapped in elegance, confidence, and the kind of charm that made everyone else adore her. Her name was Alina, and the day she entered my life, I unknowingly stepped into the longest, darkest nightmare I would ever endure. When I first met her, I was working in a software firm in San Diego. She appeared at a charity networking event, polished, composed, with the kind of presence that made people turn without understanding why. I remember her smile most. It was soft, almost serene, as if she had already studied me and decided exactly who I was. She approached me first, complimented my work, asked questions that felt deeply personal but strangely comforting. She made me feel seen in a way no one had before. But what I didn't know was that she wasn't seeing me, she was studying me. Every detail, every vulnerability, every insecurity, every crack she could widen later. She asked about my past relationships, my family dynamics, my ambitions, my fears, my habits. At the time, I thought she cared. Now I know she was gathering ammunition. The first year was perfect. Intentionally, meticulously perfect. She knew exactly when to be affectionate, when to pull away, when to compliment me, when to question me. She mirrored my preferences, my values, even my mannerisms. It felt like destiny, as if we were two halves of the same person. And that illusion was powerful enough to blind me to everything she was constructing behind the scenes. She advised me gently about my friendships. I don't think he respects you. Or, she talks down to you when you're not around. Or, your family seems to take advantage of your kindness. Always subtle. Always framed as concern. Never aggressive. Over time, I distanced myself from the people who mattered most. Not because she demanded it, she never demanded anything, but because she planted small doubts that grew quietly in the dark. By the time we got married, she had successfully positioned herself at the center of my world. I didn't realize then that she had also become the only witness to my life, the only one who could rewrite any part of it she wanted, and she did slowly over the next 4 years. It started with gaslighting so subtle that I only recognized it in hindsight. She would claim I said things I didn't say, insist I forgot conversations we never had, or accuse me of reacting emotionally when I was calm. If I questioned her, she responded with soft confusion. "Are you okay? You've been so forgetful lately," or, "I'm not trying to upset you. I'm just telling you what happened." Her tone made me feel guilty for doubting her. And guilt is a powerful lever, one she used to control my reality. Soon, she began shifting the way others saw me. She told neighbors she worried about my temper. She told coworkers I seemed stressed and unpredictable. She told her friends I was withdrawing emotionally. She told my family that I had changed, that I was becoming distant and aggressive for no reason. And because Alina was calm, articulate, and convincing, people believed her. Why wouldn't they? She never cried in front of them, never raised her voice. She played the role of a worried, loving wife who only wanted to help her struggling husband. Meanwhile, I was confused, exhausted, and increasingly isolated, exactly the picture she wanted them to see. One night, a small disagreement turned into a catastrophe I never saw coming. We had argued over something trivial, something so small I can't even recall what sparked it. I raised my voice slightly. She immediately stepped backward, trembling, whispering, "Please don't hurt me." I froze, stunned at the accusation. Before I could respond, she locked herself in the bathroom and dialed 911. The police arrived quickly. She opened the door with red eyes and shaken breath, telling them she feared for her safety. I stood there in disbelief. I had never touched her, never threatened her, never even slammed a door in her presence. The officers didn't arrest me that night, but they filed a domestic disturbance report, something that would haunt me later. She apologized softly afterward, claiming she overreacted. I forgave her. I shouldn't have. But abusers don't reveal themselves with one grand gesture. They show you fragments. then watch as you piece them together too late. Over the next year, she escalated. She became more controlling, checking my phone, tracking my location through an app she disguised as a security feature, and constantly questioning my tone, my words, my intentions. If I disagreed with her, she'd respond with chilling composure. "You're getting angry again. I think something's wrong with you." She repeated it enough that eventually, I began to wonder if she was right. Then came the moment she crossed a boundary I didn't even know existed. One evening, while standing in the kitchen, she struck herself. 2 hard blows to her cheek that left red marks immediately. Before I could understand what she'd done, she sprinted outside screaming, "He hit me! Somebody help!" Neighbors rushed out. Police followed within minutes. I was handcuffed before I could explain. I spent the night in jail, staring at a cracked ceiling, wondering how the woman I loved had turned into my enemy. The charges were dropped due to lack of evidence, but the damage was done. Alina knew something I didn't at the time. An accusation, even a false one, creates a narrative. And narratives are difficult to escape. She became more confident after that. She spoke to people with deliberate softness, telling them she was trying her best and hoping he gets help. Everywhere she went, she carried an invisible script, one that painted me as fragile, volatile, and emotionally unstable. I found out months later that she was telling her friends she feared I might one day snap. They offered her support, sympathy, admiration for staying with a supposedly unstable spouse. I became the villain in a story I didn't even know she was telling. Financially, she dismantled me with the same quiet precision. She began withdrawing small amounts from our joint account, never enough to raise alarms individually, but over time, the savings I'd built for years disappeared. She convinced me to sign refinancing documents under the pretense of lowering our monthly payments. Only later, after it was too late, did I realize I had signed away ownership of our home entirely. She smiled calmly when I confronted her, telling me, "You should be more responsible with documents." I didn't realize she had already spoken to the bank beforehand, preparing them with a story that I was too mentally overwhelmed to handle finances. She always worked in shadows, in conversations I never heard, in whispers I never caught, in strategies I only discovered when they were already complete. Then came the worst blow, the second arrest. This time she had prepared everything. Screenshots of messages I never sent. AI-generated voice recordings of me yelling threats. Photos of bruises she inflicted on herself. Emails she wrote from a burner account and then forwarded to herself as evidence. The police burst into my apartment at dawn, guns drawn, ordering me onto the floor. My neighbors watched from their windows as I was dragged out in handcuffs. I spent 5 days in jail, terrified, humiliated, and convinced my life was truly over. Again, charges were dropped due to inconsistencies, but the psychological damage was far beyond anything any court could measure. For months after, I couldn't sleep through the night without jolting awake from phantom sirens. Every unexpected knock on the door made my heart race uncontrollably. I lived in a constant state of dread, wondering what she'd do next. And she watched all of it happen. Calm, collected, untouched, but monsters slip, even the smartest ones. One morning, she forgot to close her laptop before leaving for a so-called therapy appointment. That single mistake revealed the truth in a tidal wave I wasn't prepared for. I saw everything. The messages she exchanged with friends mocking me, strategizing, celebrating the success of each lie. She bragged to her boss about how easy it was to manipulate me. She sent screenshots of forged texts to a friend who coached her on how to sound more believable in police reports. She flirted openly with another man, someone she'd been seeing for over a year, while painting me as an abusive husband to everyone else. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the infidelity or the mockery. It was discovering she had done this before, twice. 2 past partners. Both men had restraining orders against them. Both had lost their jobs. Both had been socially destroyed. Both had left the state to escape her. And she had documented everything, not out of guilt but out of narcissistic pride. She wrote summaries of how she manipulated each one, the lies she told, the evidence she fabricated. She treated their lives like case studies. I copied everything, messages, files, screenshots, spreadsheets, lists, audio clips. I had everything I needed to expose her. But I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel relieved. I felt something worse, powerless. Because even with this evidence, I knew the truth. No one would believe me. She had already built the narrative. She had already positioned herself as the victim. If I confronted her or brought the evidence forward, she would cry, shake, and whisper, "He hacked my accounts? He did this? He's dangerous." And people would believe her. They always did. So I made the only decision that felt survivable, even if it wasn't victorious. One night I packed a single bag. Wallet, clothes, phone, a flash drive with the evidence. I left while she slept, her breathing steady and peaceful, as if she hadn't spent years turning my life into a psychological war zone. I walked away from our home, from my job, from my friends, from everything I had once been. I moved to a rundown apartment in Bakersfield, miles away from the life she had infected. I changed my number. I avoided social media. I ghosted everyone. Not because I wanted to, but because she had poisoned every connection I had. For a long time, I lived silently, waking at every sound, expecting police to break down my door again. I struggled to keep jobs because anxiety made me jumpy, unfocused, paranoid. I developed insomnia so severe that I sometimes stayed awake for 48 hours straight. Every time I thought I was beginning to breathe again, I'd hear a voice that reminded me of hers, or see a woman with the same posture, and panic would seize my chest. Trauma doesn't end when the abuser leaves. It becomes a permanent guest in your body. Years passed and I stayed hidden. But one day, curiosity or stupidity got the better of me. I looked her up online. I found her instantly, smiling, flourishing, remarried, successful, praised. She volunteers at women's shelters now, speaking confidently about escaping abusive partners. She was being celebrated as a survivor, as a champion for victims, as a hero. I stared at her photos for an hour wondering how the world could reward someone for the pain they caused. But the world doesn't reward truth. It rewards performance. And she performs beautifully. I never confronted her. Not once. Because deep down I know it wouldn't matter. She has already rewritten the story for everyone who matters. And in her story I am the villain. I rebuilt myself slowly, in a way that doesn't look like rebuilding to anyone else. I work small jobs. I avoid relationships. I don't trust easily. I sleep with lights on. I double-check every lock before bed. I track my own emotions carefully, terrified of becoming the unstable man she convinced the world I was. I survive, but I don't live, not really. Not fully. And I don't think I ever will. Because she didn't just break my reputation. She broke my ability to exist without fear. She broke the part of me that believed in love. She broke the part of me that felt safe in my own mind. People want happy endings. They want justice, closure, redemption. But this story has none. Alina walks freely through the world with a clean record, a gleaming reputation, and another husband who doesn't know he's standing on the edge of a cliff. Maybe he'll fall. Maybe he'll escape. Maybe she'll perfect her system even more. As for me, I exist quietly in the background. A cautionary tale no one will ever hear. Sometimes I think about exposing her. Sometimes I imagine confronting her. Sometimes I dream of reclaiming the life she stole. But trauma binds you in invisible chains, and fear, real fear, never fully lets go. I survived her, but survival is not victory. It's just a quieter kind of defeat. And so, if there is one truth I learned in those 5 unbearable years, it is this. Some monsters don't hide in the dark. They stand in sunlight, smiling warmly, their shadows invisible until it's too late. And when they finally break you, no one will believe they ever existed.